Welcome to the 3030 Health Podcast. The following discussion is for education and entertainment. It is not intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please do not apply any of this information without first discussing it with your doctor. Here is your host, Guillermo Ruiz.
Hello everyone, I'm taking a break from studying for my boards to bring you an amazing interview. My guest today is Luis Villaseñor. Luis is passionate about fitness and curious in learning the whys and hows of how it all works. He has been studying and researching nutrition and strength training since he was 17. Upon discovering the ketogenic diet in 2001, Luis has been on a low-carb regimen ever since. Luis developed Ketogains to share his experiences and knowledge and help people attain their health and fitness goals. Luis is regarded as one of the most experienced and knowledgeable persons on the low-carb ketogenic dieting communities, and is the go-to guy when applying a low-carb diet for bodybuilding and strength training by insiders, leaders, influencers of the low-carb, paleo, and general fitness communities. I love getting messages on social media. All the hard work totally pays off when I get a message from people that get inspired from my content. If you haven't already, you can add me on Facebook or you can follow me on Instagram. I promise to be more active in the coming weeks. Also, don't forget to visit my website, 3030strong.com. I hope you really enjoyed this show. Luis, how are you doing, man?
Hey, hello.
So one of my friends wanted me to have a little bit of conversation with you in English. Sorry, in Spanish. So for all the people that speak Spanish out there, ¿cómo andamos, man?
Súper bien, Guillermo. Gracias por la invitación.
Man, I'm so excited. Luis and me just had a conversation for like around an hour, and it was just mind-blowing, and hopefully we can do some crazy shit and just really affect a lot of people and help a lot of people, and just super excited to have met you. Thanks to Rob Wolf for introducing us. And dude, for people out there that don't know you, and I don't know who that would be, can you tell us your hero story? How did you become Darth Luigi?
Well, the actual Darth Luigi name doesn't have anything good in particular. It's just something that came out because when I had to make, a nickname, I don't even remember if it was I think it was on Steam, my first Steam account. As I told you before, I used to play video games a lot. I don't do that anymore because I don't have time. But I had to create a nickname, and I'm a super Star Wars fan. So the first thing that I thought was, Darth Vader, and then my name is Luis, and then Mario Bros, and then Darth Luigi. But that's a side story. The actual hero story would be that some people don't know, but I was a very fat kid. So I spent all my available time either reading comic books or reading Encyclopedia Britannica, because I'm also a huge nerd, or reading, horror stories, Edgar Allan Poe, or sci-fi stories from Ray Bradbury. And so I'm actually, as I told you, as a super, the classic nerd, video games, action figures, learning whatever I can get my holds on. So I was, of course, overweight because I also like to eat potato chips all the time. And, of course, chocolate. I was also obsessed with the He-Man, and the Masters of the Universe, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger and Predator or Terminator. And I said, I want to look like those guys. So what do I have to do to look like them? First, I tried to start doing sports, but I'm actually very bad at them, especially team sports. I have 2 left feet, so I cannot play soccer. I cannot run. I get tired and winded and overheat very easily. But I found out that I was sort of strong. So I bought a fitness magazine and started, I bought my first set of dumbbells, and then I outgrew them. I started doing what the fitness magazines told you to do. And then, started trying to learn and, eat more protein here, more protein there, but I didn't really know what I was doing. So eventually, let's say that I sort of lost weight by sort of eating less and sort of dieting. And then one of the biggest things that I did to change my lifestyle and improve my have it so as to. But I bought I don't know if you're familiar with this device that is called a Nordic Track.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also was one of those infomercials you saw in the 80s.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, yeah.
Exactly. So I saw that device on the on paid TV. We had this at the I'm a child of the 80s, as I told you. So we had this what's the name of the antenna parabolica? The
Yeah, like
satellite.
a satellite dish.
Exactly. So I used to watch all the time American TV. So I saw that device and I said, "That's a cute, an awesome device. If I had that, I could like use it while I play video games and watch TV, and then I would not be fat because then I would be active while doing what I love." And it happened that the neighbor was doing a garage sale, and he had just the Nordic track, so I bought it like for peanuts. It was super cheap. And basically what I did was that I was playing Final Fantasy while using the Nordic track. So that's how I lost my first, I don't know, 20 pounds or so. But I was still chubby, was never really thin. So then I try to keep reading and studying and learning on how to actually become like a bodybuilder, because even though I gained some muscle, I really never looked the part. I wanted to actually know how did bodybuilders prepare to look and have paper thin skin and all the veins and abs and like that. So this was around 2000. There was at last internet. I didn't have to go and buy magazines. I didn't have to go and study in libraries. And I found on the internet that there were websites that actually talked about nutrition and bodybuilding. And so I ended up in a bulletin board, and I don't remember right now the actual name of it. But in that same bulletin board, there was this guy that's called Lyle McDonald, which I'm sure most people are familiar with. And this is the author of a book that is called The Ketogenic Diet. So I read upon what he was writing, and it made so much sense at the time. And basically, I went, and it was one of the first books I ever bought on Amazon. The Ketogenic Diet by Lyle McDonald, Body Opus by Dan Duquesne, and another book that is by Mario Di Pasquale, which are the three of them are basically about the same diet, low carb diets. The best one of them is actually the Ketogenic Diet by Lyle McDonald, which is like the updated version of the other books. So basically, the ketogenic diet resonated with me on so many levels. First, because it's a mini guide to nutrition for people who don't know anything about macros. It was my first real foray into what macronutrients are and how do they work in relation to each other, not just in regards to calories. It explains very well how you get fat, how protein is used to build muscle, how carbs are energy, and if you overuse them, your body just burns carbohydrates and stores all the fat, and how you can manipulate these nutrients to suit your needs better. So it all, like I told you before, it was like my matrix moment where it all fell into place. It made sense to me, and I decided to start doing the diet, and it started to work very well for me. First, what I actually did is the classic cyclical ketogenic diet that most people do, which is you do traditional keto for 1 or 2 weeks, and then you have a classic carb load, which for what people do is basically eat everything you want in 1 or 2 days, pizza, ice cream.
Like what kefir does.
Yeah, exactly. At first it was, okay, I can do whatever. But after the third or fourth carb load, it really, I didn't like how I actually felt, because you feel bloated, you feel like everything you achieved, you are just regressing. You actually don't feel very well. You may get diarrhea, or because you're doing lots of quick changes into your body and your digestive system, especially feeling bloated and tired and lethargic again, and then wasting all the time to get into keto again, and blah blah blah. So what happened to me is that after going through the honeymoon phase of the diet, I just found out that I really liked more eating the keto paleo style, which on my house is what we normally eat. Like very is in my actual home, my mother cooks a lot, so she's very influenced by my grandfather, which is a hunter. So they eat very paleo like. So my mother makes everything from scratch. So my house is big on veggies and meats, and so I found out that I liked more eating that way than doing the carb loads. So basically, what I started doing is just stop eating rice and beans and tortillas and eat more eggs and chicken and beef, cheese here and there, and lots of green veggies. And basically, after finding out that I didn't really like the carb loads, that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years. Stayed on what I call a congruent state of ketosis, basically.
Now, you mentioned something that was very interesting, because when we were talking about educating people and how your goal is for people not to just follow you blindly, but your goal is to educate people where they have that matrix moment where they can see things and they can understand how those things are going to affect them.
Exactly.
So can you talk a little bit about, what is your macro mix on a day-to-day basis, and how do you change those macros, like right before you go to a competition, or if you want to crush it in the squat, or how do you change that, and how does that apply to your life?
Basically, what I do on myself, I teach to my clients, and I live on two sets of macros. That's how I call it. One has their base macros, which are your daily life macros, because let's be honest, outside of maybe going to the gym, most of us do around the same things every day. If you work on on a company, you are going to do sort of the same things every day. You work at home and on a computer, you're going to do the same things every day. So we're like animals of habit. So what I do is just, like I said, I have my base macros, and then I have my training macros, which are just extra calories on top of my base macros. And for most people, that would be the equivalent of having a little bit of extra protein, let's say a protein shake, maybe a little bit of extra fat, let's say maybe 1 tablespoon of MCT oil. And depending on the type of sport and duration, maybe 1 teaspoon of glucose, or a little bit of berries, or even sweet potato, depending on the actual, the context of the person. But also depending on the context, if we're speaking on a ketogenic diet, the rest of the diet would be, of course, whole foods, lots of green veggies. In the end, most people will be between 20 to 35 or 40 grams of carbohydrates a day, even if they are using the training day macros. So in my very special case, I normally would eat about 140 grams of protein up to 150. Carbs, like I told you before, I'm normally some days even on 14 grams of net carbs a day. Some days I may go as high as 40 or even 80, depending on. And fats just make up the rest of the calories. Some days I'm as low as 70. And if I'm on maintenance, I'll be at 140 on average.
Bro, but you're going to have a heart attack.
No, I haven't had it. Another thing to consider, I'm not eating fat on a tablespoon. All the fat that I eat comes from whole foods. So for example, it's either eggs or avocado, a bit of coconut oil that I may use to cook, but I'm not having spoonfuls of coconut oil. I'm not putting oil on my coffee, etc.
Yeah, well, tell my audience the story you told me about your aunt being a doctor and telling you that you're going to die.
Oh, yeah, that's an awesome story, and I'll share it here. When I started the ketogenic diet back in 2001, first I went and talked to an aunt I had there, and she's a doctor. And I explained to her the diet as best as I could. And the first thing she told me is, okay, be very careful because you may have heart disease in the medium long term because it's so high in fat. You should not do the diet for more than 3 months. I asked her why 3 months. She didn't know, but that's what she said.
It was just something that she just said.
That's something that she heard, and I've heard that myth everywhere. that you should not do a ketogenic diet for more than 3 months. I don't know what happens at the third month, but I guess it's something like in the movie The Ring. You start the diet and then you get a phone call and it said 3 months.
3 months.
Now, after 3 months, I don't know, you die of a heart attack or I don't know what happens, but nothing happened after 3 months. So, well, it's been 16 years. I'm still here. And the funny thing is that every time that I went to see her, she was like, "How are you doing? Like, be careful. I don't want you to die." But I'm looking leaner, younger, stronger. And then everybody else in my family who also goes to other doctors, they're doing what the doctor said, eating more fruit, eating more healthy carbs, eating cereal in the morning, all the crap they tell them, and they look worse every day. And they go and do their cardio and do their Zumba classes, and they sweat a lot, but they're still fat. And then they're starving all the time, and it's all this message that is incongruent. You do what they tell you to do, and you look worse every day. You go and do what logic tells you, and it's also science and evidence based, and you look better and feel better and are healthy. So it's like two sides of the coin, and one you're supposed to be dead but you're not, and the other you're supposed to become healthier but you're not. So if there's something that I've learned is to not to follow your instincts, but more so investigate for yourself, ask the correct questions, and learn from the questions. Don't follow blindly just because someone who has authority told you. You are okay in questioning that person, and if that person does not know the answer or cannot explain to you the answer, you have the right and ask someone else or investigate for yourself. And that's what basically led me to found and create Ketogains, trying to get the correct information on low carb diets, because everybody was telling me that what I was doing was wrong, that I would die, that I would not gain any muscle, that it would not work for fitness or it would not work for health. And I found out that it was not just my particular experience, but what I had been doing could be replicated and many people could benefit just by doing the same exact things or modifying them to their special context.
It very interesting, a couple of things you said, because, we have this concept of like biohacking, and I don't like it, because people think that, I'm going to biohack my sleep and I'm going to take this pill and I don't need to sleep anymore. Well, sleeping is the best thing you can do, and you take that pill in certain occasions just to make sure you can function. Like, for example, if you have a brand new kid and you can't sleep, maybe this biohack is going to help you mitigate some of this bad stuff. Have you had any biohacks, or I don't even want to call them that didn't work, that you tried for 3 months and you almost died?
You want the best biohack ever?
Uh-huh.
It's called the fat loss pill. And they've been selling fat loss pills since ever. And I can tell you that even since the first GNC came to Mexico, I'm talking about in 1990, I tried all the diet pills that GNC or bodybuilding.com sold, and none of them worked. None of them work better than being congruent with your diet and really being consistent. You can't fool your diet, and there's no magic pill out there that will help you. And the same goes to biohacking. Yes, as you said, there are some things that work. I'm not very comfortable with using them because I'm very ignorant about them, and I know it's like Alice in Wonderland. You take one thing and it improves probably one aspect, but it also deteriorates another one. And if you don't know how it works, you could get like hurt in the process. Like for those who want to learn about nootropics, and so like there are a lot of good places like in Reddit and nootropics, but you can also see some like sad stories there about people who experiment on themselves, because it's a gray area. So there's nothing written, like you can go and learn, but there's no guarantee that it will work for you very well. And I've seen stories there that, okay, so my friend died because he overdosed on Nupept, or he did this and that or whatever. So it's something that I'm not comfortable actually to first in doing to myself outside of what is proven, and then suggesting.
Okay, so on the topic of learning, okay, where do you look for new information? Where do you educate yourself? Because there's a whole thing about coconut oil being the worst fucking thing you can eat, like right now. How do you go and find information? What resources do you use?
Okay, first, like we were talking before, you have to learn to walk, to crawl before you learn to walk, and then to run. You have to learn to do the numbers before you actually start doing the math. So you get the classic people everywhere sending right now this article on coconut oil, and people are just giving it publicity without actually stopping and reading the damn article.
Yeah.
People just read the headlines and never take 5 minutes to actually sit and see what the article says. And if you have like just five neurons, you will actually read the article, and see that, yeah, high fat can be problematic, saturated fat, along with a high carbohydrate diet that is, prone to inflammation, and being sedentary, and maybe genetics. It's not the coconut by itself that it's harmful. It's everything else that adds up to it, right? And then you also have to see who wrote the article. The American Heart Association. The American Heart Association, which is, sorry, but on a payroll by some of the leading food industry companies, right? So it's not the most credible source out there. But then you know that people who actually read these types of posts are my parent who doesn't know anything about nutrition, or your aunt, or so. So it's very difficult to educate those people because they say, but the doctor said it. And this is something I also said, and I like to tell people is, let's say that you want to do a marketing ad for your company, right? So you go and hire a marketing firm. You do not ask for marketing advice to your accountant, right? Doesn't make any sense. So why are you asking for nutrition advice to your heart doctor or to your dentist? Both are doctors, but being a doctor does not mean that you know anything. A doctor is a title, but you have a specialty. And what most doctors know about nutrition, for example, in the States or in Mexico, which I know from practice, my fiance is a plastic surgeon. And I don't ask her, with all respect and with all the love in my heart, about nutrition to her, because she knows nothing about nutrition, or she knows very little, because she took at most 48 hours of her whole career, which lasted 15 years. So, and this happens to most doctors. They study very little nutrition, yet they act like experts, because being a doctor has such a, like, we see them as gods in our society, and it's in part earned, it's very well, but they also have to accept that it's an ego thing, and they don't know everything. They may be very well informed in their specialty, and they can be very well the best in their specialty, but they should refer to people that actually know more about them, and not play like they know everything.
And if I have a heart attack, I want a cardiologist to help me.
Exactly, and I get that, but I would not ask for general advice on nutrition to a cardiologist.
Yeah, and just like we wouldn't ask for a pharmacist, for help when I have a heart attack, or a nutritionist, and maybe a nutritionist can be more useful.
Why are you going to ask your nutritionist about when you broke your finger, right? Doesn't make any sense.
But again, I can make the argument that maybe they can change your diet in a certain way to speed up the healing. So, like,
yeah, that can happen, and of course they should know a little bit of things, but they are not specialists, so that's one. And then to answer your actual questions, what do I do to learn? I follow both people who agree with what I believe in, and also people who don't agree with what I believe in. Why? Because sometimes by asking the uncomfortable questions is where you learn the most. I try to not stay in an echo chamber where everybody will applaud what I say. More so, my time on the internet is on forums and following people that don't even agree with ketogenic diets or low carb diets, because by looking at how they think and what they say is how I learn the most.
What's the law? The law on the internet that the best way to get you the right answer is to make a comment saying the wrong
The
information,
wrong question, exactly. The wrong answer, exactly.
and then
And
everyone floods and tries to correct you.
exactly, that's a valid way to put it. But also, like what I said at the beginning, if you go and look in PubMed, that's a very valid way to look for information, and I actually do that very much. I have a collection of every time I find something interesting, I have everything like in my computer bookmarked. So I have bookmarks regarding nutrition, bookmarks regarding insulin resistance, bookmarks regarding hormonal imbalances. So if I need to go back and look at it, I just have everything indexed. But again, this is like high level, information. Most people are not going to go and do this. So, like, what I can tell them is try to first read more than the actual name of the article. Just skip the headline, read the whole article, see who wrote it. If the person is like trustworthy, or if it's a Dr. Us. If 1 week he says one thing, then the next week he says totally a different thing that contradicts what he said the week before. If the source or they has a conflict of interest, like coconut oil is the worst thing ever, and who wrote it? Okay, Kellogg's, because they're losing clients when people drink coconut oil and stuff like that. So you have to be a little bit wiser and try to understand which is, if there's an agenda behind everything. And I'm not saying that everything has an agenda, but sometimes there is.
And sometimes they could have the best intentions. We did talk about this, like companies are not evil, but they live in their own echo chamber, and the information they're putting out there is maybe old or misinformed or misguided, and they don't look at the intricacies of things, and they're putting bad information out there.
Exactly.
Okay, so I do a lot of. I'm not like on ketosis all of the time. Like right now, I'm doing a 24-hour fast. I work better on a lower carbohydrate diet. I keep my carbs between 75 to 100 carbs a day. I just I do intermittent fasting. I did it throughout medical school. I just function better. I feel better on a lower carbohydrate diet. Are there any populations where you wouldn't recommend this type of diet?
More so than populations, I'd go on a personal level and experiment. Like, I hate blanket statements, and I would not go and say, oh, you're from Mexico, then you should not be doing a ketogenic diet because your ancestors probably ate a lot of tortillas, right? Like, you don't know. Like, even like, for example, I'm from Mexico, but I had my 23andMe test done, and I'm basically 90 something Spaniard, right? So then maybe keto works for me because I come from Spain. I don't know. But maybe that 10% that I have from Latin Americans or from Aztecs, or I don't know which tribe was the one that...
Chichimeca, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a Mayan or whatever. We don't know if those lived on the coast and maybe are more prone to eating seafood. There's so many variables that I always say, first tackle the easy before going into the complex. Why stress yourself with this biohacking and trying to get all the answers to very complicated things that probably no one understands yet, when the most basic and easiest things that you can do is first eat whole foods, try to eliminate processed foods as much as possible, try to cut out sugar as well, even if it's natural, and work from there. Like Rob says, it's better to try like an elimination diet where you stick to one or two sources of protein, let's say eggs, chicken, maybe beef. Stay there. Okay. Then also pick green vegetables that that probably won't have any issues with 90% of the population in the world. Okay, let's go and grab broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, which are the most nutrient dense and more versatile, right? Okay, then fats. Okay, let's grab coconut oil, or if you're afraid of the recent article, grab, I don't know, olive oil, because maybe you have 5% Italian genes, whatever. I don't care. Or grab, I don't know, you grab coconut oil or olive oil or the fat naturally occurring in foods. Start there and do it for 1 or 2 weeks. Okay, how do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you think you can improve? Do you want to add another thing to your diet? Okay, add pork now. Now you have 4 sources of protein. Add fish. Now you have more protein and more fats. Add zucchini, maybe eggplant. You're still within the scope of low carb and eating whole foods, but you're adding more variety as it comes along. So the moment that you actually feel something is going wrong, you can look back and see what you just recently added, and then you're not in in this big puzzle where you don't know what is working and what is not working, because you gradually added stuff in. You know exactly what could be the culprit and what doesn't work for you, and that I think can be applied to any person in the world on with any genetic blueprint, whatever, even if you're Mexican or Italian or Asiatic or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really, I don't think it's going to be that much different. And then if you want to add tortillas back, you can try. And if it works for you in that regard and you don't feel tired or lethargic or you don't get, bloating, maybe you can work perfectly with some tortillas, right?
Yeah, and now, what do you think about the concept of if it fits your macros?
I think it's infantile, basically. You can do if it fits your macros. I'm doing if it fits my macros all the time. I just decided that my macros do not fit processed food and do not fit over 30 grams of carbs on average. But the idea behind if it fits your macros, you know who popularized it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically I forgot the name. I had my two minutes of Alzheimer. It's Andrew McCarthy, I think. I know him very well. He's an awesome trainer. He's also super intelligent. But most people who do if it fits your macros are either young and healthy metabolical wise,
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see people who actually do if it fits your macros when they're over 30 or over 40 and see if they can keep doing if it fits your macros eating Pop-Tarts and pizza all the time.
It sounds amazing.
It sounds amazing, but I don't think eating over palatable and overly insulinogenic foods is going to be healthy in the long term.
And it's sad because we want to have that magic pill, and we want to have we literally want to have our cake and eat it too, but sadly it will catch up to you. Exactly. Now let's outside of the biohacking, what are some useful tools that you use? I know you use electrolytes.
Yes, I just made a post today on Ketogains regarding the importance. First, the reason why we need electrolytes and the importance of electrolytes on a low carb diet, not just on keto. And actually, that's something that people who even don't do ketogenic diets should be supplementing.
What mix do you use? Do you use like just salt, or you use potassium and chloride? Is there a product that you actually like?
Actually, yes. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so first, even if you don't do a ketogenic diet, electrolytes, especially sodium, are super important for the human body. That's why that's why Gatorade is such a huge hit, and then Powerade and all those electrolyte drinks, right? When you sweat, you lose salt or sodium electrolytes, and those have the greatest impact on sports performance. Most of the time when you're tired and lethargic, it's not really because you need more food. It's more so because you're dehydrated. Sometimes when you feel hunger, it's not really because you need food. It's because you don't need, it's not because you need water. It's because you need, or again, electrolytes. One of the first things that people experience when they go low carb, not just keto, is the classic keto flu, which most people are familiar with. And it's not really a flu, it's more so a sign or a symptom of electrolyte imbalances, because you are in a low insulin state. Your body excretes sodium, you urinate a lot, and all the electrolytes go away. So you're basically dehydrating yourself. And because you're not eating processed food, which processed food is super high in sodium most of the time, well, you lose a lot of sodium. So people who experience the keto flu, they want to get over it quickly. It's just adding salt to the diet. But because we've been told all the time that salt is bad for
It's gonna
us,
kill you, yeah.
yeah, it kills you and it causes high blood pressure and everything else. We are very cautious in actually adding salt to the diet outside of what normally comes in it.
But it's all in context, because if you have high insulin, you're going to have high sodium because you're trying to thin out the glucose in your blood.
Exactly.
So then when you go keto, you start peeing, which is fixing the compensatory mechanism that is making you have high blood pressure. So in the context of someone with high blood pressure, adding salt is a problem. In the context of someone that's eating a high carbohydrate, high calorie diet, coconut oil will be a problem. But in context, if you're doing a ketogenic diet, salt is going to be your best friend.
Exactly. You said it. So again, it's bad. Salt is bad going high, but it's also very bad going super low. Like it's a normal part of the human metabolism. Like humans and animals will go out of their way to supplement on sodium. There's salt lakes. Normally, animals in the wild will go and look actively for salt deposits and try to live around them, and go and get drink water around salt. And the same goes with humans. With the word salary, where does it come from? Well, basically Roman soldiers were paid their wages in salt. Why in salt? Because it was super valuable, right? But again, that's just a side comment. And the thing is that I do suggest people actually to supplement on electrolytes when they do a ketogenic diet, and especially more if they are doing any kind of training, because of course they will sweat more. So if you ask me for a product, I normally used before something that I called a keto rate, which is basically a mix of sparkling water with a little bit of Himalayan salt, just because I like more the taste, not because it's necessarily better. You can use table salt as well. Potassium and magnesium. I used natural calm, which is a bit difficult to find here in Mexico, along with cucumbers, a little bit of lime, and I just placed it on the fridge to macerate, and then drink it throughout the next day, or maybe have a shot in the morning. But because we found the actual need for a product such as this, just by coincidence, I found this in Mexico. I don't know if you can see it very well.
React.
Yeah, I gave Rob a sample last time I met him. We're basically trying to sell this in the States. And this it's made here in Mexico, and it turns out that it's from someone that is like my second cousin. We found this by basically accident. A client of my girlfriend gave her this to try it out, because he was not going to use it, and I thought it was, a weight gainer of some sort. But when I looked at the actual ingredients, I said, well, this is very much like the product we are trying to develop for ketogens. And I started using it, and it's not just the quantity, but the actual ratios of sodium, potassium, and magnesium that work perfectly in tandem. So you try this just before training, and it makes like a real and tangible difference in how you train. Basically, why? Because you're getting just the electrolyte ratios you need to train better. Here in Mexico, we sold it to some people that are our clients, and even if they are not training, it improves how they feel throughout the day substantially. And it's, again, because you are giving your body what it needs to function properly, both in mental and physical level.
Have you tried it in nitrates?
Nitrates?
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, there's I've seen a couple, and I'll shoot you those papers. Like some like beet juice and things like.
Okay. Yeah, they make a lot of sense, and I've seen them lately. I've used nitrates as such as beet juice, but more so for training.
Yeah.
Citrulline, arginine are basically they extract them or they study them from beet juice. But I'm not going to be ingesting, a lot beet because carbs, and you need actually a lot. So basically, I do use citrulline or arginine before training, more so as an enhancer. They give you a little bit, the classic nitric oxide.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's a
exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
flood from that, and it gives you an extra, let's call it one or more or two more reps at the gym, basically, or a little bit more power output, and also your perceived fatigue level is lower. And you know how they say that everything happens in your mind. If you actually believe that you can do something better, you physically will be able to. One of the I've seen it, and there are quite a lot of studies on this. If you are mentally fatigued, even if you are at your 100%, you will not perform the same in any physical activity, just because your mind is not there to support your body. And on the other hand, if you are maybe at your 80% physically, you may not have slept well, or you are not, maybe you're a little bit malnourished because you didn't hit your macros the other day, whatever. If your mind is, you're motivated, you probably can perform the same as if you were the 100% or even a little better.
And you can see that with like child of the 80s, like Rocky,
Yeah.
his mind was there and his body responded to what his mind said.
You put a nice playlist and it makes like a whole lot of difference. Train with someone you trust and that follows your training, and you will, I guarantee you will lift more. Take a pre-workout, even if it's a placebo. I've seen it with my clients, and if they hear me, don't listen to this part, you can edit it, but most of the time I suggest taking the pre-workout before. And 50% of this is just a placebo effect, because I know that if you take the pre-workout, that costs, because you're taking protein and the whey shake and the coconut oil or whatever, you already spent $5 or $6 worth of product, and you're not going to waste it by not going to the gym. It's like a ritual. You take the pre-workout and then you have to go to the gym. It's very difficult to take the pre-workout and then say, fuck it, I want to stay and watch TV. You will not do that. You take the magic pill, now go and use it.
That's actually a great, like as a doctor, that's something I'm going to use. You're right. If I tell my patients, if I was to tell my patients, take these supplements in the morning, but they only work if you have a clean diet.
Yeah.
Now they're going to have an extra motivation to continue having a clean diet.
Exactly.
So where do you see, what are the differences in like this movement in the United States and this movement in Mexico? Where can we take advantage of this, and why do you think this ketogenic movement or paleo movement or nutrition movement is so successful in the United States, and where are we lacking with our people in Mexico?
I don't think we're really lacking. I think more so it's a matter of time. As more people become more aware that they can get the information they need and they want without an institution, they're going to look for the information in places they can trust. It's the same that it's happening to TV. Here in Mexico, very much like in the States, people used to watch free TV, classic CBS, Fox News, whatever. What is happening to the younger audience? They're not looking at TV anymore. They don't even have probably Netflix. They have their cell phones. And they're probably more on time reading Facebook and Instagram and maybe Reddit or whatever the new, social media place is. And that's where they get information, or maybe Tumblr. And the same is happening here in Mexico. You see people that younger people don't even watch TV. So it's just a matter of time that they're going to start looking for the answers in other places. So if you're asking for the opportunity, it's just being the first to actually get the information in their language, because a lot of people think that Mexicans or also in Latin America they speak English, and one of the first things that my peers tell me here in Mexico is, why do you do all your content in English, and why are you not doing it in Spanish? Well, the first thing is, well, because I learned everything in English, and that's where I communicate with and resonate with people. But yeah, I have the obligation to, because I'm Mexican and I live in Mexico, to also start translating the content and giving people here in Mexico the same free advice that I give everywhere else. So yeah, like the need is here. People will hear and are actually willing to get all the information. They are hungry for information. It's just that there's no really credible advice. There are a lot of, let's call them gurus out there, that if you look for them, you will find them. And you have lots of health coaches, which the only benefit they have is they have a nice booty. Yeah, basically if you go on Instagram and look at the health coaches and nutritionists here in Mexico, some of the most famous, they don't have a degree in nutrition. They didn't study that. They don't even have a certificate in any sports authority worldwide, like ISSA or Bayesian bodybuilding or anything. They're not naturopaths. They're not anything. But just because they say something that looks part true, and because a person that says it looks healthy, people believe it. And that's something that irks me, It happens, it's just like in TV, where you see someone who looks successful sells you something and you go and buy it. The same happens here with nutrition. And just because you're following someone that sort of looks the part, but you don't know if this person actually lives the part and follows what they're doing. And just because everybody and their mother is now a health coach, right? It's like the Avon of the 80s. Now, because they cannot sell Avon, now they're either selling a multi-level marketing something, and they call themselves health coaches, just because they're telling people that how to improve their life through biohacking or using X product or eating 10 carrots a day, whatever the diet they're preaching. And I think people should be more prepared, and people should be more, as I told you before, question. Like, okay, you're suggesting me that I use BCAAs. Okay, awesome. So why would I use BCAAs if I'm eating adequate protein? If you know that BCAAs are protein, then you know that you don't need BCAAs, and you don't need to spend $20 or $30 of your money, which you could be spending on better quality protein. Like, I don't know, if you want to go full paleo and eat grass-fed cows and chicken and whatever, spend it there instead of buying BCAAs. But that's the kind of information that people need to pursue and try to, educate themselves into, not go and take the easy way out. So people cannot fool you.
And at the same time, we can take, so the BCAAs could be a tool, just like cottage cheese can be a tool.
Yes, but like, for example, I have this troll game in keto games where every time that someone posts again about using BCAAs, I question them, why are they using BCAAs, basically, and I post like 20 different studies where there's no benefit of using BCAAs, and people get mad at me. And then in the end, they say, but it works for me, so shut your mouth. How do you know it works for you? Have you done an actual test and see, do you have like a twin where one of you uses BCAAs and the other doesn't? And how does BCAAs improve your actual life? No, but I recover better. Have you actually thought that you're recovering better in training, not because of the BCAAs, but because the formula has salt, sodium, and potassium, and you're drinking them along with water, along with maybe some extra vitamins that you lack? What would happen if you, instead of using the BCAAs, you just had a lime shot with sodium, You had an avocado before in your morning breakfast or afterwards, and ate adequate green vegetables that had enough magnesium or add magnesium to your electrolyte drink. Have you thought about that? Have you tried it? No, because you're so invested in being right that you're missing the forest for the trees. So it's not about being right or wrong. It's about thinking what's the purpose of said supplement and then seeing if you actually need it instead of looking for a holy grail, right? Like you said, context. Yeah, they could be probably a use for BCAAs in the right context. But again, if you know that BCAAs are the smallest particle of protein, then you know that if you eat adequate protein, then probably you don't need to spend money there, which could be better spent elsewhere. And it's about everything in nutrition. You have to see it as an economist, and it's called optimization. You don't have to go all the way to optimize every single detail, but you can optimize 3 things that will yield better benefits economically wise. If you have, let's say you have, I don't know, $5,000 in the bank, and you can invest them, well, you're probably going to invest them where they yield the better returns. You're not going to just leave them there, or you're not going to use them and spend them, or use them in a scheme that will not even, that it will even give you negative returns. So the same applies to nutrition. Is if it fits your macros well, if you have a goal and you want to spend all your calories in a piece of cheesecake, it's, your choice, but then don't come crying that you're not losing weight. Be responsible. You spend that there, then the thing that happens with nutrition is a little bit different because you can overspend and it's going to reflect, on your belly fat. It doesn't happen in real life where you overspend. Well, maybe you'll get a bad credit score. But if you don't have a credit card before, you could not spend more than you earned. Now with food, it's so cheap that you can basically eat like everything. And the only thing that will not improve is your diet and your health. But if it was, maybe it's not the best example, but yeah, you really should not be overspending your calories if you have a goal.
And I guess BCAAs was a wrong example, but I do want to talk about tools and how we have different tools. And the problem with these gurus is that they see these tools and they are so good at creating a market and selling them as like snake oil. And so maybe there is, we can use them as tools if we have a purpose for that tool. But when that guru is telling you, this is it, this is the only thing that you need, and that's when we need to be leery and we need to pay attention.
The only thing that I say that you actually need is called education. Like, for example, if I have a client and the client comes with me and tells me, I know almost everything I need to know, for me, I've done my job. I don't want you to be my client forever. I want you to take the information that I gave to you, and you, like as we talked at the beginning of our talk, that you get your matrix moment where you now see macros and can apply them to your goals. That's really my goal, when you don't need me anymore, when you can go and be free and do whatever you want, and you understand that you are not like a prisoner, let's call it, of diet or training, that you know how to like if I make a training program for you, then you don't just go and follow it blindly, that you know that you are probably training chest this way because we're trying to hit this muscle, and then we're adding triceps because it's a compensatory muscle that will also benefit, blah, blah, blah. The same happens with nutrition. So when you understand how everything comes together, you can apply it by yourself. And that's when you are on the next level, right? Maybe then you can start fine-tuning things and experimenting, but not before. You're not supposed to be adding supplements and playing with supplements and nootropics and everything when you're not comfortable with your own macros, And I don't want you also to be measuring and tracking and everything all your life if it doesn't suit your lifestyle or your persona. There are people who really cannot or get very stressed when, with counting calories and everything. It's not for everybody. But if you sort of eat around the same things every day, if you start with a limited food, database, let's call it, like I said at the beginning of the talk or some while ago, where you stick to some, to whole foods and don't add that much variety, you're not going to have really any issues. There's not a single part in the world where you're not going to be able to ask either for chicken, pork, beef. There's not a single part in the world where you're not going to be able to ask for spinach or broccoli, or green veggies. Everywhere you go, you can always ask that. What I've seen with people is that either they fall prey to their preconceptions, so they actually don't ask in a restaurant because they're shy about asking, and they feel they're gonna get maybe the waiter or the chef into trouble. It's like, no, you have all the right to ask the questions you want. You're paying for a service. And the same goes when they go to visit relatives or parents or grandmothers. You can always say, no, thank you. Like, here's the cake. No, thank you. I'm not getting cake. But you have to try. No, I don't have to. I come here to enjoy your company, and I appreciate you very much, but I'm not going to have the cake. And people are, like Latin Americans, I don't know if it happens as much in it, but Mexicans, we never say no.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Right? We don't know how to say no. We have to learn to say no. And it doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be rude. It's just a no, thank you. And that's it. There's nothing else in there. It's just a no, thank you.
And then at the same time, if you are in control of your body and you know what to do in order to be healthy and continue being healthy, then that no thank you could be, maybe this time I know the effects of what I'm doing, and I will control myself, and I have the knowledge to understand how much of this I can do.
Exactly.
And that's when you're truly free.
Exactly.
Well, Luis, where can people find you, man?
Okay, so everything that you see on the internet in Keto Gains is actually me and my group. So it's not just me. I have an incredible group of people who work with us. Have an associate in the States, Tyler Cartwright, who has also an incredible life journey. He's lost like more than 200 pounds. Almost 300 pounds. He is also a legend. So like I told you, everything that is Keto Gains, it's on Twitter, Instagram. We're mostly more active on Facebook, on Reddit as well, but on Reddit I'm not as active as I used to be. You have to, if you want me to answer a direct question, you should be tagging me or asking me directly, but I try to read, but I get so much mail and questions and everything that I really, as much as I try, I cannot read and respond to everything. But again, if you ask directly on Facebook, you will likely get a response from me or from someone that is affiliated to the group. And of course, like, you can go to ketogains.com, and that's our blog and website.
It's funny that you just wrote that electrolyte article, because this was not planned. No one's gonna believe us. But I actually have a list of questions, and I hit all of them. But I was very interested in that electrolyte. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
Awesome.
Luis, thank you so much, man. I took 2 hours of your time. It's fantastic, and I hope to continue working with you, and we'll see each other again. It's gonna be fun.
Thanks a lot, Guillermo. I enjoyed this very much. We'll be in touch for everything else that comes. And of course, like we talked before, there's a big market here in Mexico, both for knowledge and for events and seminars and basically information. So the more we can do to get information out there for people that it's both credible and evidence-based, I think people will fly to any of these events that we could make, or get the information for them.
Totally, man. I'm game. it's my people and I need to help my people.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, man.
See you around, Guillermo.